Track Chevy out of position number 3. Robin Best, defending champion, starts in 11 out of 4. Walter Giles and the DuPont Solari Buick. Our eyes on Barry Graham, the man who sat on pole position for the race but had problems in a qualifying event this morning and has had to change engines. He'll start dead last in the field. We'll keep an eye on him. And Walter Giles also carrying one of our race cams. They're coming off turn number 4. The Ford pace cars go to the pit area, and we're ready to go racing at Calder Park Thunderdome. The NASCAR Australian Championship Grand Final. Just look at the fans throwing their baseball caps in the air as Terry Byers hauls them down into turn number 1. Sitting right behind him, George Elliott, the man who goes into today's race with 3 points. Ahead on the leaderboard over Charlie O'Brien, and Kim Jane on the back straight in the Goodyear car, but Byers comes up to race him and try and draft him into turn number 3. Here they come round the turn. Byers hugging the inside line. Jane goes the outside route, and right behind them we have George Elliott, who might find a little gap in the centre. Joining us for the call of the race, 3-time Oscar champion. Congratulations again to Brad Jones.
Thanks very much, Mike.
Well, you've got over your problems. We have a feeling this one will go to the wire as Byers comes back again on the inside of Jane on the back straight. Elliott still sits in the third. Back behind them, Robin Best of Tasmania, and then Walter Giles. Very tight up the front, and look at Elliott putting his nose in between these two, looking for the lead.
George Elliott's the man in the box seat. He leads the point score. All he has to do is finish this race and he wins the NASCAR Championship. But I tell you, he'll be wanting to win this one. Kim Jane, a man back on form, and Terry Byers, after a terrible season this year, is really on fire here at Calder today.
The man with the hard luck tail has to be Charlie O'Brien, who had an engine go-off song and will not start in this race.
Here's an inspired run as we go inside Walter Giles' car. He takes Kim Jane. Walter looking very strong here. And also an inspired run from Robin Best, the Xerox Ford Thunderbird. He's been having a bit of trouble this year too, but here he is in third place as George Elliott hangs onto the back of Terry Byers. George wanted to keep everything together. He's got to finish this race to win the championship.
It's all happening at the front, but what's happened in the meantime is Barry Graham's had a stop-and-go penalty for some reason, and he's just come back on the track just in front of these guys. Now, he was originally the pole sitter, but they had to put an engine in this morning, and he's just started a race, so I'm not sure what that would be for. But the race up front is fantastic. George is brave move.
That was a brave move off the outside line, and now he's gone through to take over the lead as we take the DuPont Centauri Paints race cam. We ride with Walter Giles going along the back chute here at Calder Park Thunderdome. He's running back there in about 4th spot, moving up right here. Robin Best giving it his best shot, and Giles probably his best ever outing. He gets stronger at every outing here at Calder Park. And they've shuffled Kim Jane back into the clutches of Alan Grice. That'll make interesting watching very, very shortly.
The ground-pounding NASCAR, 1,600 kilogram cars, 650 horsepower, tremendously powerful V8 cars. Walter Giles taps into the draft behind Robin Best as they come down toward
You'll get it out in a moment,
I'll get it out eventually. There we are, Robin Best, race cam again, DuPont Centauri. And we're with Walter Giles as he taps into 4th place. Up ahead, you can see that tremendous scrap between Terry Byers and George Elliott. The smoke coming from the back of Walter Giles' car.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
He's in trouble.
Yes, poor old Walter there, and the DuPont Centauri entry comes down to the bottom turn.
He'd want to get out of that thing in a minute.
Yes, I'm not sure, surely. Otherwise, he's going to have it all over the back tyres, and that will do him no good at all. Does he ease the pressure going down the back straight? He certainly does.
Yeah.
And there's the view, the DuPont Centauri race cam as it pans around.
Cockpit full of smoke.
That's bad luck indeed. He gave it a good shot, an outstanding performance earlier today, and he's bound for pit road, and it looks like an engine's gone south, north or west.
So the leaders come up to lap the back markers. Elliott's still in control, but Byers not letting him get away.
Now, I've always thought of George Elliott more as a sprinter, and maybe the 50-lap distance might suit him a little better than the normal 125 or 150 lappers that they run here.
His car has been fast all week. He's really been the pace setter, and he had a bit of drama in qualifying. Yes, they had a bit of a spin and had a second go at it and still did a fast time. And today, you know, he's got to the front quite quickly.
That's just an indication of the mixed fortunes they've had this year, Bradley. Because George Elliott was 5th in the opening round. He was 3rd in the second round. Round 3, he was out of contention. He's leading the points chase. And here comes Robin Best up on George Elliott and Terry Byers.
Up traffic is playing havoc with them as it did in the Oscar race. It's very difficult to to judge exactly where the guy in front of you is going to go. And if you're running second, you've got everything to gain and not that much to lose. So if you keep your boot into it, when they see the guy in front come by, they know that they're going to get lapped. But if you're the pace setter, it's very difficult picking your way through the lap cars, especially when you come up on them so fast they don't expect to see you there.
Well, we saw a good run from Walter Giles early in the race. The DuPont Centauri entry, it's behind the pit wall. Let's go down to Andy, who's with Walter. Whoops, 72. Thank you, Walter.
Bruce Partington in the Ford T-Bird gets it loose. The yellow flag's out. And I also noticed there was a bit of smoke belching from the back of Terry Byers' car.
I don't know if it's smoke or water, actually.
There's something trailing out of the back of the car. So we'll keep an eye on that as they slow down for the yellows. And he might even take this opportunity to pit if his pit crew's informed him of the problem.
With such a short race, it'll just about be the end of him.
Okay, there goes Ian Thomas. Let's have a look and see what happens.
Bruce
He's on his
Partington.
way, yep, going down into the bottom turn. He's caught it nicely, though, and just brings it to a stop just on the edge of the grass. So he's out of harm's way and the yellows are out. Starter has the yellow flag out, and also, I believe, a black flag that may come out for Terry Byers. Some of the other drivers on the racecourse have been trying to tell Terry he's got fluid coming out of the back of the car. We've seen that now for a couple of laps, and maybe they want him to go to the pits and check. That'll be bad luck. Well, he's going to do that anyway. He's headed on in. That'll, providing he doesn't spend too much time and they can rectify the problem.
Well, the pit crew guy's just giving him the signal, that's it, you're finished. So I think Terry's out of the race. Engine's still running.
Yeah, I don't think he wants to stop. The thing's going very fast today, and it's pretty hard to accept the fact that you're not going to run.
He shut the engine down. That's it for Terry. What a great disappointment.
He'd be a very disappointed man.
Cars amble by the start-finishing line. Terry Byers' car sits in the pits. George Elliott is ready at the head of the field for the restart. Bad luck for Byers, and with him in the pit area is Andy Raymond.
Got out of the diff and onto the track, you know, and just a bit of bad luck, eh? Running strong.
You can't take a trick, can you? You finally get the act together. You cleaned up earlier on, and now this.
Yeah, we were just sitting there running in second, and I was doing it easy, you know.
Byers accepts the fact that his hopes for a run and a win here today have finished, and he hasn't got a shot at the national championship. George Elliott certainly does. He's behind the pace car. He's on the outside, the yellow 55 car. About half race distance, ready for the restart. George Elliott brings them off turn number 4. The Ford pace car just ready to dip below the white line now and head to the pits, which it does. And the green flag will now come out as George Elliott on the high line gets set to outpace the field towards turn number 1. Kim Jane moves it up into second spot on the outside, and then Robin Best of Tasmania. They all safely get through turn number 1. Was a little on the oily side there due to Terry Byers' spill, but as they work the back straight, George Elliott opens it up just a little bit from Kim Jane. Right behind Kim Jane, of course, is Robin Best of Tasmania.
And Alan Grice making a charge now. He's up to 4th place, right on the bumper of Best. So it's Elliott, Jane moving up closer to George. Robin Best, the 2 times NASCAR champion, Alan Grice.
Here comes Kim Jane to mount a challenge once again on George Elliott as they come down the back straight. His car was running perfectly in the trophy dash this morning. Looks in good shape now as he starts to pick Elliott up off turn number 4. Back through the tri-oval. Grice sits right behind Robin Best, so we have a good race here going for the lead. To the bottom turn. Order unchanged.
Robin
George
Best.
Elliott. And there's Alan Grice. What a strong running 4 we have for the lead. Race leader as they come down the back straight is George Elliott, and the man challenging is Kim Jane. And what's Kim Jane down on the inside of George Elliott? Nothing between them, and Jane snaps the lead away from Elliott. And here's Alan Grice back behind them, looking for 3rd as they exit turn number 2 and come onto the back straight. Fantastic drive here from Robin Best as he goes to the outside again.
Great fight back in the Xerox Ford. Robin, as 2 times champions, had a terrible season. He's had a number of collisions, flat tyres, hasn't been getting the results that he's used to. And here in the final of the 92 series, he's showing all the competitiveness that he used to show. They go under our track cam, taps onto the back of Alan Grice's Pontiac, and moves closer and closer to the lead. Meanwhile, there's Adam Pay, the NASCAR winner, the young bloke, 27-year-old from Peak Hill in New South Wales. Got a fully sponsored drive in NASCAR this season by winning the NASCAR program. And I tell you, if any slip-ups happen for George Elliott, he's the next in line for the NASCAR title this year. So keep an eye on these two, because the changing fortunes in motor racing, you could have Adam Pay up as the winner of the NASCAR championship.
Well, just less than half a lap behind the race leader and on the same lap as Barry Graham, who was the fast qualifier yesterday, lost an engine after the 5-lapper this morning. Didn't run the qualifying race, so he had to start at the back of the field in this one. He's already had a stop-and-go penalty and worked his way up to 10th spot. All they need is a yellow flag at some time and form the field up, and he'll be back right amongst them.
And Robin Best goes wide there.
He's been having a little trouble with his car. It's been a bit loose in the middle of the turn.
Doesn't look that good, does it?
No.
Adam Pay, meanwhile, capitalises on that, slips through to 4th position. So George Elliott, he's coming under increasing pressure from Alan Grice. There's Barry Graham, the Denzel Mead Chevy Lumina. Tony Hallett tucks in behind him, the Commodore.
So Graham's picking them up fairly smartly, but I really do think he'll need a yellow to pull him back on the tail of the leaders.
Well, he really has been the wild card this weekend, and if he does get a yellow flag, he's really going to mix it up with the leaders for sure.
Alan Grice in the number 3 Valvoline car, and Adam Pay in the 44 car, the Australian winner of the NASCAR Driving School Series that guaranteed him a start for all the races this year in that 44 car.
It's a pretty strong run too. He's making up a couple of tenths on Alan Grice each lap.
I think the youngster's got some natural ability. He's passed quite a number of cars. Order's still about the same, with Kim Jane doing it comfortably out in front. But you're right, the man starting to put the big ones in is in fact Adam Pay in the 44 car.
Started off in motocross, was a dirt rider for a number of years.
Just look at this now. He's come up behind Gricey, who's no slouch around Calder Thunderdome.
And he really has made up a huge amount of time on Grice.
Now Gricey will do him no favours. He'll make him fight for absolutely every position.
Every single inch.
Because Gricey will treat it as an affront of anyone that wants to take a dime off him and drop him down a spot. So the honourable projected member for Broadwater heads along the back straight with Adam Pay. Oh, there's back behind them. And we've got 2 of them coming around. That's the break. That's all Barry Graham needed. It's Robin Best.
Ian Thomas.
And Ian Thomas. And will the yellow come out? Yes, it will.
So Barry Graham once again will move up, slowly pegging back the leaders.
What happened there was they came around to lap a car, and Ian's just tried to squeeze between the lap car and Robin here, and they've just touched ever so gently, as you can. It will happen in a minute. They both dive down, and that's a difficult thing about lapping cars here. You really have to pace yourself. There he goes, just drifts up the circuit a bit, and around they go.
Yes, we caught that just out of the corner. The eye as they came through with Adam Pay making a big run on Alan Grice. And there in the pit area, Barry Graham, the driver who'd come off the back of the field, was up to about 6th or 7th spot. And look, as the pace car heads down pit lane, and on the outside, getting up smartly, 27 Kim Jane gets away from George Elliott. He falls immediately into the clutches of Alan Grice as they swing into turn number 1 and now work their way onto the back straight. Byers is down a lap but trying to pull it back. He's probably down about 3 laps but trying to pull back the race leader, Kim Jane. Elliott still running in the 2nd spot. Grice is 3rd. Adam Pay is in 4th, right behind Alan Grice. So this championship is still wide open as they come off turn number 4.
Doesn't look like Byers is going to let them go by here. He's quite keen to prove a point, I guess, and get back up there. I know he's actually backed off to let the leaders go by. That's a very decent thing for him to do, because there's a lot of people out there that wouldn't even think of that.
Jane continues to lead. 2nd spot held by Elliott. Right behind Elliott is Alan Grice, who is just as home in a NASCAR here at Calder Park Thunderdome as he is in a Holden Ute, Bathurst. little more body work and perhaps a little more aerodynamic.
Yeah, Grice loves this sort of racing. He won the Christmas NASCAR 500 in 1989.
Well,
Spent some time in the States. He's the first Australian to qualify for a Winston Cup race in the States. So he's had a few main things to his credit during his relatively brief NASCAR career.
and they've got about 6 laps to go as they come off turn number 4. Jane looking very comfortable. Kim Jane out in front, leading from George Elliott. And I would think at this stage of the race, as Beyer still tries to run the low line and pick that lap back up. Actually, look at the speed difference between he and Robin Best.
There's a lot there. George Elliott's in a little bit of trouble here, I think. His car looks very... it's pushing through the middle of the corner. He's drifting up higher in the circuit. And as you can see, he's up high there. And Grice is actually catching up to him. If he's not careful in a moment, I think Grice will try to go by. They've got 6 to go, so he's got a little bit of time there.
Well, not only that, but if Adam Pay can get up on the tail of Grice and make it a slingshot from the pair of them, that'll open up the championship no end. There's George Elliott from Sydney, car number 55.
Well, George still has to beat Adam Pay if he's going to win the NASCAR title, and you'll probably be able to see him in his rearview mirror there. That'll be making him a little bit nervous. George looking down the barrel of his first NASCAR championship win. Came very close in the opening season of NASCAR when it first came to Australia in '88, but he didn't quite win it. He'd really like to get that under his belt today.
Only 4 laps remaining. There's Elliott, the 55 car. The gap about the same. Grice maybe only, maybe marginally closer to him than the previous lap. Adam Pay, who has fired just about everything, I think has run out of bullets. He was sitting on Grice's tail, but he's gone a little backwards at this stage. And there's Terry Byers, who's down a couple of laps, still trying to pass them in the closing stages of the event. About 2.5 laps remain in this NASCAR National Championship Grand Final at Calder Park. Kim Jane, the Goodyear entry, leads George Elliott, Alan Grice. That's the order, followed by Adam Pay and then Robin Best of Tasmania. As they reel one more off, there should be 2 laps to go as they come across the line going down into the bottom corner.
It's still a very impressive run from Adam Pay, though. His 5th ever NASCAR race, running against some very experienced competitors.
Well, barring a spin by one of the top 4, it looks like that's the way they're going to finish it. Have the white flag out this time around. They come across the line. Kim Jane, beautiful drive from young Kim Jane this afternoon. Elliott really doesn't want to do anything more than just hang into second for the final lap, and he's locked up the championship. Looks like that's the way it's going to pan out. And Jane enters the back straight for the final time. Good day for the Janes. Bob Jane, owner of the circuit, another magnificent crowd here today for the finals. And Kim Jane coming off turn 4 now. It's going to be an all-family affair. Spectators to their feet as Kim Jane comes across to take the NASCAR National Championship final here today at Calder Park Thunderdome. George Elliott places in second. That's enough to lock up the championship for George Elliott. Alan Grice takes 3rd in the Valvoline entry, and Adam Pay, sensational drive, finishes back in 4th spot. There's Kim Jane. George Elliott pulls up alongside of him, gives him a wave, congratulates him for the individual drive here this afternoon. Let's check them out for you on the 7 race score. Kim Jane, the winner of the final. George Elliott places 2nd and has sufficient points to take the title. Alan Grice finishes in 3rd. Adam Pay 4th, and rounding out the 5, Tasmanian Robin Best.